Today is Wednesday, October 13th, 2021, and this is your What's Happening Dracut. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our show tonight. We have a jam-packed show for you. We have a guest here tonight, a legend of Dracut football, who's going to talk about what's going on with the football program here in Dracut, with Dracut High School. I'm your host, John Zimini, and welcome to our studios here located at Mill Street in Dracut, Massachusetts. Our guest co-host for this evening are Gordy Scott. He's in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Say hello to Gordy Scott.
Hey.
He's right over there. There he is, the man, the myth, the Teflon Don of Dracut politics.
How's everyone doing?
Just wonderful.
How you doing tonight?
I can't
Overwhelmed.
say anything about that. If I say the wrong thing, then I will no longer be Teflon.
You're not going to be Teflon after tonight because we're drawing you out tonight. Yeah. We're going to draw you out. And then we have Phil Thibault. He is the guy about town. He does everything Dracut. He's on 90,000 committees here. I don't know where the man finds the time to do his business. And by the way, it's a great business. Phil Thibault. How are you, Phil?
Very well, very well. How are you?
Ready to rock and roll?
Absolutely.
So
he might be Teflon. I'll see if I can be ceramic coated.
Oh, yeah. Believe me, there's plenty of people that are throwing eggs at you.
Oh, that's for sure.
Plenty of people throwing eggs at you, which we'll get into later on in the show. So stick around, folks. We got a lot of exciting stuff to talk about.
Hey,
and of
Phil.
course, we have Don Morosky, who's chomping at the bit to say something. Don Morosky.
Well, he's talking about people throwing eggs. Believe me, the champion right there, the people who are throwing eggs at him. I'd like to have the contract in Dracut for eggs.
Well, Halloween's coming, so I'm going to be watching. If my house gets egged, I have plenty of cameras around my house.
Well, I figure your lights would be out because you can't afford to.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially after that breakfast yesterday. But I don't want to miss our Cub reporter, who is the ace. He's becoming the star of Datv, folks. He is the man that he's a 17-year-old high school junior who goes far beyond his years. Junior now. Oh, senior.
Senior.
Oh,
wow.
Look at how fast he jumped all over me.
They grow up.
17-year-old.
They grow up so quickly.
Richard Silvio, our Cub reporter.
Oh, geez. Well, if Gordy's the Teflon tonight, I'm the abrasive sponge because I'm getting ready to push buttons with this Columbus report.
Oh, he's got a Columbus report tonight. He's got a couple other reports going to come out tonight. And we've got a little bit of a blockbuster rumor coming out on one particular story that Richard is going to be reporting on tonight during our show. And I'll get into that later during the evening. So stay tuned, folks. But we wanted to let you know how you can reach us if you'd like to come here and be on our show. And not so much come here because, you know what? We're crowded now. We got 5 seats. They're all full. But we'd love to have you join us by calling in at 978-957-4243 and join in the action. We talked to the executive director this week to try to fix that phone situation, and let's see how he did. If he did it or not, I'm not sure, but he was going to work on it. Let's see what happens. We also can be watched by going on to Facebook. If you're on live with us, you can watch us on Facebook, and on our Facebook page, we are now live. We have a YouTube channel. Right? We're not very active on the YouTube channel because that's the Teflon Don's job over there. So what's going on with that, Gordy?
Yeah, so you can bring up episodes. You can also watch it on Dracut TV on the video on demand. But if you don't want to do that and you want to just catch just our episodes, look for What's Happening Dracut on YouTube. And we have all of our previous episodes up there. You can watch them to your heart's delight.
But as you know, we are live on Dracut Access Television right now on Channel 8, Comcast 8. So if you're on Facebook and you're in Dracut and you have Xfinity, you can get on Comcast Xfinity and watch us live right there too. But if you have a complaint, if you have something you want to push back on us,
don't bother calling it. No,
you can contact us. Also, if you want to stay, not be on any of those other mediums, you can contact us through our email at what'shappeningdracut@gmail.com. But before we get into this great show that we have for you, we have a jam-packed 80 minutes ready to roll. So we're going to get into that right after we hear from our resident weatherman. The guy is fantastic. He works for Channel 7. We are so happy to have him with us. And here he is from Mill City Weather, Sean Kelly. Take it away, Sean.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me once again. Here's the forecast for tonight. It was a nice day out there today as we had high temps near 80 degrees. As we enter the overnight hours, it's going to be near 60 degrees, so it's going to drop down too. So it's not going to really be that chilly as we enter tonight, of course. So above average temps for the overnight lows. As we enter tonight, we'll have some more clouds around, especially in the evening hours and into the overnight hours. And then as we enter Thursday, another nice day. This is probably going to be your pick of the week, near 80 degrees. As we enter Thursday once again, the wind's not going to be that bad either, coming out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles an hour. And then as we head into Thursday night, we're going to drop it back down to the 50s once again, near 57 degrees for a low temp on Thursday night. Here's a look at your exclusive 8-day forecast. We have a chance for a few showers Sunday and Monday right now. That looks like that's going to be the best chance for showers within the next 8 days. Tuesday's going to be nice as we head back into the 60s. And that's the forecast for now, everyone. Back to you guys in the studio.
Good guy, Sean, isn't he?
Oh, fabulous.
Now,
Very
Phil
knowledgeable.
is responsible for getting Sean on DATV.
Yeah, Sean was talking about how he's having difficulty trying to do a show like he wanted to do on LTC Lowell Telecommunications, and I said, come over to Dracut.
Yeah.
And we'll try to do anything you want. So we actually set up doing live. There's even talk that, when you're having a weather event, that perhaps you could broadcast live
Yeah,
through
be
DATV.
awesome.
So
That would be awesome.
it may happen. I'm not sure if we have a staff that wants to hunker down here in a blizzard, but I'm sure they could if they needed to.
All we need is one person to say
That's
yes, and he
right,
can be
that's
here.
right.
Gordy, what do you think of Sean? Sean is such a great kid. Does he do a great job?
Unbelievable. And did you see that weather forecast? Another unbelievable. It's so seasonably warm.
Isn't it?
I was noticing today, I said, I'm sweating. It's 78 degrees today.
It was nice out today. It
It's
really
crazy.
was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm usually in October where we've got sweatshirts on. And
I'm going to put Moose on the spot right now. I'm going to ask Moose,
okay.
what do they normally call this kind of weather when it happens in early October? What kind of summer? What kind of summer is it?
It's a Indian summer.
An Indian summer. Now we don't want to be disparaging to
Indigenous.
Indians. That's in a
brother.
good.
Oh,
that's
brother.
in a good way. We're saying that,
Yeah,
right?
that's
We're
exactly.
saying that in a good way.
indigenous person summer.
Yeah.
It's like politically correct.
This is the safe space of DATV.
The politically correctness business is not surrounded in this particular show.
But I would add to that typically Indian summer comes after the first frost of the year.
okay.
Correct.
Oh, really?
So we still have not had a frost. So
Right.
Leave it to
it
Phil.
is not Indian summer yet.
Leave it to Phil to come up with this, with the
The useless
The
information.
useless information, right? But before we get into the show, I wanted to send our condolences out to the Vinyl family, who lost a wonderful woman, a matriarch of their family. Joan Vinyl passed this week, and Joan Vinyl, if you are at all involved in community activities as well as the St. Francis Church community, then you know Joan Vinyl and you know that family. And Joan Vinyl was the pillar of that church. If you were a newcomer, and at one time I was a newcomer to the town, and we had young children, and we came to St. Francis Church, and Joan was one of the first people we met, and she brought us in and made us welcome to the church community. And anybody else that ever came into the church, you would see Joan. Did you know Joan at all?
Not very well,
Yeah.
but I knew she was a rock of the community.
She is a rock of that family, you know. Don Morosky, I'm sure.
I knowing her, and she's taught in the Dracut school system for 33 years. I had 5 children go through the system, and she taught the whole 5 of them.
See, that's a piece of information we didn't know.
Yeah, you have that.
And wonderful, wonderful woman.
Oh, and she consoled you when you were in there in a funeral or stuff, and her in conjunction with Father Kiley, which was down there, really built St. Francis' Church and worked hand in hand, and she was a pillar. She was a deacon there and everything else.
Well, I'm going to give you a little story about Joan Vinyl and my personal story. But when we moved here, we were here maybe 10 years or so, and we're part of the church, but we weren't really active members of the church, but we'd go when we could because we're little kids and what have you. But I had an aunt who got ill, and she came down and she lived with us. And during the period of time that we had her living with us, she was very ill and dying of cancer. And Joan was tremendous. She arranged through the church to get us someone to sit on Palm Sunday, on Easter Sunday, so that we could take our little ones to church while they watched my aunt, stayed with my aunt, because she couldn't have. And Father Kiley is aces in my books, because he would come and give my aunt communion. She was a very religious woman, and and she wasn't really a member of the church because she was from Chelsea, but.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, my aunt did pass away in my house, and we were very grateful for Joan and Father Kiley. But we send our condolences to the Vinyl family, and we, that you're in our hearts tonight. But I wanted to give a shout out to my hairdresser. Everybody see how nice my hairdresser is a person who said, "I'm going to watch your show." So I wanted to say hello to Diane Costas, and she's doing a great job in trying to make me look good. So, let's get into the net.
John, before we get into that, I just want a couple shout outs to our people on Facebook that are watching.
Absolutely.
Nick D's out there, Carrie Ann, Lynn Marie Murphy Dubois, Tom Barabee. Very good friend of mine, Victor Olson, has joined us
Victor.
tonight. Yep.
We got to get him on the show.
Yeah, we should
get him on the show.
And Paula, I'm not gonna get this name right. Paula Endelicato Mozokia. I think I got that right.
Yeah. Well, you can't be given Angel. I brutalize her name all the time. So Angel, if you're not watching, you should be watching.
I do not see her online at the moment. So
she's got to be. It's got to be something happening with her, because she's on every.
Yeah.
Well, we'll probably have in East Dracut as Moose
The
knows.
Borowskis are watching for sure.
Yeah, but we've got the yellow water problem over in East Dracut in my neighborhood.
Yellow water.
Yeah,
What are you talking-
we've got some issue with our water right now.
Really? That's
So if anyone from Deep Cut
water.
Kenwood water.
Kenwood, so if
Kenwood
anyone's
water.
watching out there that can fix our water, please come over to East
Oh,
Dracut.
we should have had a report on that, Gordy.
Well, it
tonight.
just happened. This is
started?
breaking news.
Are they flushing the hydrants?
Broken
I
on
don't
what's
think-
happening in Dracut.
No,
like usual.
there was no flushing the hydrants. This happened around 3 o'clock.
Oh, there might be a broken pipe that
And
nobody knows.
usually what you can do is you go down where the Chinese restaurant is on 110. There's a pumping station. You'll see the red light going. That means
Oh,
it's
the
a
pumps.
problem.
Something's
But I backed myself off to have a shower at 3 o'clock, and I said,
Oh. Maybe
No, I don't think so.
Maybe he's pumping it directly from the river.
Did you say it was yellow water?
Yellow.
And Moose was going to go in and take a yellow shower?
Yes.
I don't think that goes too
No,
good.
no.
Some golden yellow shower.
John,
No,
Nick,
that's bad move. That's bad taste.
Nick D on Facebook said, "Hey, Gordy, are you sure it's not just your house? Try flushing the toilet."
Yeah, Gordy's been known to take some pretty heavy. Well, let's not.
That's where that ends.
Let's not go
That's
there.
where that
We'll end it
ends.
right there. Moose, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How about yourself,
Good,
John?
good. Moose, we had an event yesterday at Shaw's, ML Shaw's.
Lunch.
Country Kitchen, is it? Or
Country
luncheon,
Kitchen,
whatever.
yeah.
We went there for breakfast.
Yeah.
And why don't you tell the folks at home what happened at that event?
Well,
Look right into that camera right over there. There's-
Okay, we had approximately 30 to 35 people there, former football players and supporters. We honored 2 people. One of them was, of course, Tom Keefe.
Hold on a second. Nate, we have a couple of pictures, if you could throw them up while we're talking. There you go. There's Tommy Keefe and Coach McKenzie, right?
Yeah, that's Coach Mackenzie, Jermaine
Jermaine.
McKenzie.
And you are handing a piece of paper to Tommy Keefe and to the other gentleman. Who was the other gentleman?
The other one was Richard Doobie. He was my captain in 1957. But and before that, sitting over behind where the coach is standing, there was a football player, Frank Sandelli, who was the first football player. In 1946, he was the captain.
Wow.
And John, you've seen him, the condition he's
He's
in.
in
He's
great
90,
shape. There he is on the
93
picture.
years
There he is in
old.
the picture right now with Tommy Keefe.
Yeah,
And-
there's Sandelli to the left right there.
With the hat on, right?
Yep.
He's
yeah.
92.
93.
93.
Well,
Don't cheat him out a
he'll
year.
tell you he's 91, 93, and his wife Beryl said, this is his real age. The only problem he's got is getting arthritis in his hands. He was a bricklayer all his life, and he said his hands were in the mud all the time, and
Yeah.
now he's got some arthritis, and otherwise
So
perfect.
tell us how you organize this breakfast and what's the purpose of the breakfast?
Well, the purpose of the breakfast, as far as I'm concerned, it was on the high school Dracut Pride, and really wanting to know what the heck happened to the Dracut Pride. I mean, going back, it was instituted by Coach Murphy back in them days, where Sandelli had 17 kids on the team. Tommy Keefe, about 23 kids on the team, and so we organized a group to rename the gym over at the high school to the Murphy Gymnasium, and I mustered a group there, and ever since a good rapport with most of these people, or all the people that are still living, and reached out, and it's pretty hard because the records. There were really no records at the time, and so forth. But the thing yesterday, I was very happy to attend. There was Dennis Murphy, which was the head coach at the Vogue School for 15 plus years over there, and Mike Perrin, coach at Westford for about the same time. And then I had Danny Murphy, which was a coach at Dracut, and I had your good friend Hank Golick, and he was a coach then, and we brought them all in, and Coach Rudolph had a commitment, previous commitment, so he couldn't make it, but he's bringing up a point too with me, and what we're doing is working, trying to revise the football, the Midi Pride, let's put it that way, not only the football. And Rudy was a coach of wrestling, and it looks like the numbers they're going to have to merge with people, and he is going to hit the ceiling. I mean, that's how bad things are.
So what are one of the things that you see that can happen at the school to revive some of that?
Well, we're working on a couple of, more than one thing. One is to how do we keep the kids in Dracut from going to the Vogue School, Central Catholic, and so forth. I mean, the enrollment, they tell me with the Central people, the class of 2022 is the highest enrollment they ever had out of Dracut.
Really?
And, the Vogue School enrollment, and, they got a lot of money over there, so there's a lot of things going on over there. And we've hit rock bottom. Again, in researching out some things, but I don't, go into names or anything like that. I met with the coach at the Letterman's Club the golf tournament and had lunch with him, and he wasn't even named the coach until they named him as the coach. And I asked him to go over his particular program he had. And John, you heard the program yesterday, and I think there was some doubters when we went in, and I think he came out of there pretty strong, even with the coaches. And I was glad to see you and the coaches sitting at that one particular table right across from me and conversing with him. And he was, afterwards, I didn't leave there with him and Leo Duraco and a kid named Tommy Grandine. Tommy was a
kid. How old is Tommy Grandine?
Tommy Grandine right now would be 80 years old.
He's a kid. He's a kid to Moose. He's a kid.
One of you all can remember the family, the Grandine Garage out there on Nashville Road. That was a political haven at one time. Not that he was involved in it, of course.
Phil would know that because Phil's the only other than yourself, the only guy that was born here.
Yeah.
You weren't born in Dracut, were you?
Of course I was.
You were? Okay.
Born right in Dracut on Methuen Street.
Well, there you go.
They'd go to a hospital.
So then the two of you. So the rest of us are all blow-ins.
Where
are you from?
You're from Wisconsin.
Wisconsin? Wow. You're a cheesehead.
Wow. That's correct.
And I'm from Chelsea, Massachusetts, which, that's like, what are you doing up here? And this guy, his family comes from
Watertown, but don't say it too loudly.
Watertown.
Watertown wasn't a bad town.
No.
Chelsea, I used to go get the bagels over at Chelsea at Pressman's this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kate's Bagels.
Kate's Bagels.
But Pressman's is the
Pressman
deli.
was down where the market basket was.
Yeah.
And
it's
he
on
used to
Everett
open up
Avenue.
at 2 o'clock in the morning, and he had big, thick glasses on. He'd take the eggs and throw them up, catch them in the pan. What a show he put on. It wasn't the cleanest place in the world. But
Sam would be sitting there with his cigar, smoking a cigar while he's doing the hash.
My boy, this is how you cook the eggs.
Exactly.
And 3 o'clock,
My wife had bought me a metal sign for our kitchen. It's Pop's Diner.
Yeah.
And it says, "It ain't healthy, but it sure tastes good."
The greasier it is, the better.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
just wanted to chime in
Go
on what
ahead.
Moose is saying about the Midi Pride.
Yeah.
I think the biggest way to turn it around is to win. I mean, people like to win. And that's not happening now. So I think, our basketball program is much different than the football program because we have a successful basketball program now. We have a new coach that came in, totally turned the program around. He got involved with the youth, the travel teams, and that program is totally flipped 180. And I can't say enough about our new basketball coach. And I think you'll see that this year in the stands, all the people. I think you're going to see it. We got some great players, a young kid that I think he's going to be a top prospect out of the Merrimack Valley. But it's winning. It's
What's his
about winning.
name? Do you remember his name? I'm obsessed.
Torres.
Torres.
His last name's
I want to say this, that as long as the political forces within the school system, I'm not talking about the political forces that get elected. I'm talking the politics of the school system itself, those in the school system. If they let this guy, McKenzie, incorporate his plan and then give him the tools and the ability to do it by giving him the funding for the tools to get it done, they can get back to greatness. Now, I was speaking with my athletic director today. He happened to call me with a little issue for the season coming up. So we were talking on the phone, and I was telling him about how you were coming on tonight, Moose, and talk about and he says, that program was great. He says, they beat us.
Right.
He says, and we like to think we're a winning program all the time. And he says, they were a great program. He says, and he said, the atmosphere in Dracut on a Friday night was unbelievable. He says, it seemed like everybody in the town was there.
Yep.
So that's hard to beat, Moose.
Yep. And there's no question about that. There's a lot of excuses being thrown out there. The one that gripes me a bit is the virus. Well, every team in cities and towns had the virus, so we can't blame that.
Right.
And I kind of like to judge a program, and we're equivalent with a Tewksbury, boys enrollment and so forth. In fact, we might be a couple hundred. I think it's 200 or 300 more. And why is their program so successful? And I was always taught in my career is ask the question, why, the 5th time you should get an answer. Well, I've asked why the 55th time and still haven't got an answer. Okay.
So I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
The coach mentioned a lot of nice, good things yesterday, but Coach talked about the flag football program that's going on at the high school. Why don't you tell the folks about that?
Just I have a grandson that's playing football, but he's really a hockey player.
Right.
Make a long story short, I went down to the game on Sunday. It was 11 o'clock game.
Is it a school program? Is this a school flag program?
No, it's a town program.
It's a town program.
It's the biggest program in the town right now.
Okay.
Okay, and the numbers way over Pop Warner and so forth.
Okay.
And I couldn't get down to the high school, through the parking lot. I'm saying,
the complex.
what in the hell is going on here? Well, finally, after about 15 minutes, I get down to the field behind the school, and there are people, you can't find a parking spot. You couldn't, even if you were handicapped, excuse me, you couldn't find a spot. There was that many people. And if you remember at the breakfast yesterday, a businessman that owns a business in Methuen brought that to our attention. Well, I knew it. Remember, I said, yeah, Tommy. His name is Tom Swieczewski.
Tommy Swieczewski,
yeah. And
the owner of Fireside.
Fireside Restaurant.
Great
down
restaurant,
in
by the way.
A native of Dracut, native of Kenwood.
His wife was a school teacher, right?
School, yeah. Make a long story short, he was there, and So he's the one that brought that up, and then that's when I chimed in. I just couldn't believe it. But the story there is, as parents, especially on the female side, don't want any kid playing football with a helmet account of
because of the concussion stuff
at an early age, and then you got the other ones that just don't want them to play football.
So folks, if you want to join in the fun here and call in and ask Moose a question about what he's trying to do to help with this Legends Breakfast, and he does it every couple of months or so, and he trying to build it up so he can get some support from these older guys and these older legends of football in Dracut to try to support the program as much as possible. If you want to call in, chime in, call in, 978-957-4243. Moose, I'm going to ask the guys in the booth to play that little clip of the football game that a couple of weeks ago where the kid made a great run back. So Nate, if you can throw that on right now. Let's see.
Handoff. Nope. Fakes the handoff to Gagnon. He throws it to Kai McDonald's going to go in for the touchdown. 56 yards for the touchdown, I believe. 58 yards for the touchdown. My mistake. Kai McDonald was the star on this series, clearly for the Middies. That might be their longest play of the season. And we got an official's timeout. Official saying
he
something.
adjusted to this ball. If you watch it on the replay, it gets tipped. The ball gets tipped, and he makes the adjustment.
Yep. That's just a good set of eyes, John, and a good set of hands, and then it's all run. So Dracut lining up.
Looks like they're throwing out the whole fans.
Yes, it does
look
look
like. Open the
like.
side gate, and they're all walking out.
Yeah, that does appear to be the case. And the ball is, two-point conversion is made. Gagnon with the carry on that. So Middies now have 8. And yes, John, you are correct. The entire fan section for Chelmsford is being ejected from Beaudry Field right now.
Hey, we're back. Here we go. You got it. You did it to the camera.
I
That's
told
a
you,
good,
yeah,
good point.
John,
good
I can
point.
remind you,
Go
you
ahead.
see all the people leaving there.
Yeah.
The Chelmsford people were throwing stuff on the field at the players.
Classic.
And the police had to go down there, and they removed them from down there. It wasn't a score or anything else. I didn't like what the Chelmsford coach, I'll be quite frank with you, coaching his fraternity, and he said, I had 4 freshmen into the ball game. Well, I remember 3 years ago when they had the hazing program over there, and Dracut jocked them in 3 years, but nobody says nothing about that. But somebody from Chelmsford or Westford, the newspaper is from Westford now, Dracut wasn't even in there at one particular point in many other schools.
Right.
In the Merrimack Valley. It's only Chelmsford, Westford. So, it's the rag from Westford to the sun.
So Moose, we talked a little bit about the football building up the program and how the coaches are down at that flag football program to try to recruit some kids. You want to expand that breakfast a little bit. So why don't you tell folks how, if they're interested in joining in with that?
Well, joining in, you can. My phone is 957-453-0702.
Okay.
At any time, you can
contact Moose, and you can join. You can get on the list, and he'll contact you when.
Yeah, and it's especially when you're dealing with older people, like it's tough. And as I said to you, no records. But going back, how do you rebuild Dracut? And I understand what Gordy was saying over there. But let me tell you, this program is at the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay, and
How many kids on the program right now?
Right now, he had 33 when he started. He had it up to 40. 2 kids didn't buy into his program, and so we got rid of them. And then there was one that evidently the whole football game was talking to a cheerleader So we get rid of them. I mean,
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Talking to a cheerleader.
Well, let me
If a
say
hockey
this.
player did that to me, I would say, you know what? Go over there and talk to the cheerleader.
Yeah.
Go
Take
ahead.
off your pads.
Go ahead. Try,
Yeah.
Take your equipment, take it, and go talk to the. And that's pretty much what the coach did. in a
Well, let
diplomatic
me
way.
tell you, in my days, Coach Murphy didn't do that.
He didn't.
No.
What would he do?
No. See you later, Jack.
See you
All right.
later, Jack.
And,
It wouldn't be pretty back in the day.
But going back into the program, and Gordy has some things. My granddad, the coach, is looking for blocking sleds. I think I mentioned this yesterday at the thing. Oh, we got plenty of them. We're at it. Well, Dracut used to practice down, as far as I'm concerned, on Phineas Street, the field way down the end down there, that bordered Flower Lane. So they go down there and they go into the wooded part, and that's four blocking machines with the trees growing out of them. Okay. I said to the coach, getting on further step is the board. I don't know, you guys familiar with the board. You get two anybody players, and you block each other on the board, and you rotate it around. And if you didn't, and if you were goofing off, Coach Murphy lap, not 1 lap, 2 laps, 3 laps. Well, anyways, he put them on the board, okay, and it wasn't 10 minutes. They were huffing and puffing and didn't care for it. But this is what football is all about. But it's things like that and the talent level there.
So there's a cultural change that has to happen, and the
Yeah.
talent level has to
Yeah.
come up a little.
But they get coaches going around to, I'll start with the Pop Warner program. The A team is not very good. Although somebody told me today they beat Everett, I don't know. But
Yeah.
the B team would be the team that you want to work on. And that's just a step down in younger kids. There's some talent there. They've been down there. They've talked to a few people. And flag football, they've done the same. Now you get some kids. I know in flag football, the team playing Jake, there's a quarterback there. And in fact, Jake's friend, that's my grandson, he's 6'3".
Wow.
And he's a 8th grader, I'm sorry. You get potential, real potential. But there's about 4 or 5 of them down there to get some potential. And they've talked to them. So they're moving around. Now the question was brought up, as you know, how many coaches do you have?
Right.
And at the time, I think he said 4.
Yeah, he's got 4, 3 4 including himself, which is like ridiculously low.
Yeah, and I said, what kind of a conditioning program? Well, he says, we got somebody from the system that's going to oversee the conditioning. And what you want to do is in the early winter months, have them work in the weight room and build their lower body. And then you move on after, a few months, and then you build your upper body. Well, if you know football a little bit, the blocking has changed since I was there, and a lot of other people were there. You used to come across with your forearm and bang, stand up. Well, you were, unbeknown to us, this is the way you were open to, you get knocked on your butt. Football now, blocking, you stay low and you reach up and come right up under their pads. This is a new technique of blocking. So I know he's trying to do that. In fact, I mentioned it yesterday. I was very impressed with the line coach.
Yeah.
Okay, and so we're talking, and he gets some parents down there to put on a spaghetti supper every Thursday night. Everybody's welcome. John, you're welcome.
Okay. Yeah.
And they do a great job, and it's.
Well, Richard, you have some people.
Oh, we have somebody on Facebook making a comment. I don't know football lingo, so bear with me on this.
Okay.
The U10-C team.
The C team beat Everett, yeah.
Yes, they
Roads.
won against Everett on a forfeit because of the actions of Everett's coaches.
Oh, whoa, that's interesting.
Apparently.
We'd like to know about that one.
What is it?
Who
Repeat
was
that again?
Who chimed in on that? Was that?
That was Petrel Michael William.
Oh, yeah.
So apparently the
Mike.
C team won by forfeit because of the actions of the Everett's coaches.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Yes.
So the Everett coaches did something that wasn't
Well, that's
Wasn't kosher, so to
Sportsmanlike,
speak.
yeah.
It wasn't sportsmanlike, I'm sure.
well, that's not surprising with Everett, to be truthful with you. Although the coach from Everett is over at Catholic Memorial now, DeBazio. He's the biggest recruiter on the East Coast. And now
They don't
the
recruit
comment
the MIA.
now,
can't do that.
well, and the comment was that now you can do it legally because you're at a Catholic school.
No, that's not
Oh,
true.
well, I'm
But
telling
he's
you what
doing
they
it, and
say.
he does
I'm
it,
telling you what
sure.
they say.
Yeah.
And I knew DeBazio when he was over in, I believe it was Weston.
Yeah,
And
been around a long time.
and
DiBiase.
Yep, DiBiasio. And he said to Dracut, because we went down to Everett and whipped their butt up in Dracut. He said, I'll get even with you SBs. Well, he didn't have a chance because he's moved on out of Everett. He's gone to Catholic Memorial, and Dracut ain't going to be playing Catholic
No,
Memorial.
not anytime soon. So Moose, we got to wrap it up because we got a lot to talk about. Is there anything else you want to add real quick?
No, as you said earlier, I would just like to get some more participation. I'd like to build that up to next meeting, probably 50 people. The other thing I just discussed quickly is probably maybe have a luncheon instead of a breakfast, but
Good idea.
you know, we'll see what's going to go on.
And the host down there, Lindy Shaw, did a great job.
Oh, yeah, they did exceptional, but
Did a couple heads turn when I walked into Shaw's? Did a couple heads? You think a couple heads whipped around when they saw?
one come
What's
over
John
and-
Zimini doing here?
One come over to me and said, what the hell is he doing over there?
Well, I'll tell you right now, Mr. Shaw and I had a little conversation, and it was very pleasant. And you know,
It looked like he was in the hiding over there, though. He was on the
no,
other
he was discussing some stuff on his getting ready for the Salvation Army
Oh, okay.
event that's coming up.
Okay.
So, but Moose, we want to thank you for coming in tonight.
My
And-
pleasure.
And we'll catch up with you maybe after the season is over, and you can tell us what they're doing then. Okay?
Yeah, and after that, I'll be a ball head. I won't have any.
Oh my God! Yeah. People are going to be throwing the eggs at you for coming on this show.
Just let me chime in a bit here. The opponents in the last two games, the total was 92 points they got on Drake,
Well,
versus I think it was 6 that Drake had got.
you think they would pull back a little bit?
Well, you know, Chelmsford was always a thorn on our side, and we always went out there, and just Coach Murphy's speech was always to us was, your mother and father are working in the mills down in the shoe shops in Lowell, making $100, less than $100 a week. The people out there, they're 6-figure people. Go out there and whip their, you know what. And he had you fired up so much that it was incredible. And I just never forget one game. Tommy Gallagher was a hell of a standout at Chelmsford. Well, Murphy derived a plan. Did you hit him on every damn play there was? Any play, you just hit him, and we beat them out in Chelmsford. And it was a big school.
Great stuff. So, folks, if you want to, you're out there and you're a former Dracut football player and want to get involved, and it's not only for old, it's not only for men, it's not only for women, for old men or whatever. They invite women, they invite young kids, whoever wants to get involved in this little effort to build up the programs, can't reach out to Moose. We're gonna cut out here for a minute so Moose can get off and get off the set here. So Phil, you're going to introduce this little segment that's coming up.
Yes, so we have a new show that's going to be airing on, actually started airing on Datv. It's called Too Much Sauce with Chef Ramon.
And who's the producer of that?
I am the producer of that, and I will announce today that Phil Thibault Architect is also a sponsor of the show.
Wow, great. That's
So
awesome.
I think he's doing a great job, and this is a segment from his first show, so if we can run that and take a look at it.
Some roast,
Moose, thanks again.
some grilled chicken already cooked up. If you meal prep for yourself, you can just throw this in and bring it up to temp. It won't need to be recooked, pretty much. So, right, here we go. Perfect. It's kind of what you want, at least for me. It's kind of what I want. I don't want mushy vegetables in my soup with mushy noodles and mushy chicken, right? So, textures, flavors, layers, that's what makes a good dish. But yeah, we're gonna let this go for another, like I said, 15, 10 minutes. We're gonna strain it, and you'll see what we do with the tomato. Actually, let's actually take a look at that right now, right? So, see how the skin's pulling off. This is tomato concasse, right? All these fancy words, right? This is really good to make pico with. So, like, you can do this and then shock the...
Wonderful.
Wow, look at that.
I know.
That's a
You should-
vegetable soup.
Wow.
You should have seen him at the pig roast the 4th of July that we had, and it was just fantastic.
Really?
So we've got a couple of shows. He's already got a couple of shows in the can. So yeah, just watch it. It airs, I think, almost 5 times a week. So certainly check the listings. But Mondays, Wednesday at 11. I think so. Today it would have played at 11 this morning. I think Friday it's playing at 7:30 in the evening. So you
And then
can
you
catch
can do it on video on demand, right? And then
Absolutely.
If you want to follow along, you can kind of pause it and catch up.
And I believe he gives a link to the recipes that he's doing. So
Now, what is some of the future food he's going to be cooking? Do you know?
one was I think the second episode is going to be champagne chicken.
Ooh,
So yeah,
sounds good.
yeah.
You know, our Ace over here wants to do a show, right? You want to do a show?
You know, I was thinking about doing a cooking show about wartime recipes.
Why don't you
and-
do one of the wartime recipes for What's Cooking Dracut? We'll put a segment on here. We were going to do that.
Well,
And
you know what
You can come in and tape it. And
I'll make
do
that wonderful
10
cake I told you about.
10 minutes?
I made a cake that no eggs, no butter, and no milk.
There you go.
Came out wonderful. I'll make that for the show.
All right, why don't you do
We'll
that?
have that for the next episode.
There you go. There you go. And you can use the kitchen set. to
There
do
we
it.
exactly.
So, folks, we're going to move right into what we really get here for, what we're really here for, and that's for the local Dracut news and the local political scene. So we have a lot of stuff going on, but before we get into all of that, we want to run that little "Where's Mr. Z?" or "Where's the Z Man?" If you recall, a couple of months ago we had a contest because some idiot was going around posting, things about me on public property. Well, why don't we play that, Nate, and we'll see what happens. We don't have it.
We don't have it.
Ah, you should have warned me. We don't have it.
Moving
Okay.
right along.
But maybe, Gordy, maybe you can find it on Drake,
Yeah, while
What's
we're
Happening
talking,
Dracut, and we can talk about it. But anyways, we do have a winner. We had a contest, and we do have a winner. After hundreds of emails of people that sent in guessing on this thing, we have a winner, and Phil's going to announce that winner. Drum
And
roll,
here it
please.
is. And the winner is Zeke Haraji.
Zeke,
Congratulations. Zeke.
one of our faithful watchers.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Great kid. Do you have that video?
I'm
Nah.
You don't have it? All right, forget
Yeah,
about it. We'll worry about that later.
we'll pull it up again.
We'll play it another time. But Zeke, I'll get you a gift card from Dunkin' Donuts, and then you can take me out for coffee. All right. So moving right along, folks, we have a couple of things on the agenda tonight. We're going to go right into Phil Thibault's talk about the town meeting warrants.
Town meeting warrants,
There
yeah.
you go.
So I know the selectmen had a meeting to go over the town meeting warrant, and so we have 9 articles.
9, that's small.
9. That is very small.
That's terrible.
So a couple of them are very much the boilerplate. Article 1 is to waive the reading. So Article 2, there were a couple of other articles that were referred from previous town meeting. One was to declare buildings at Beaverbrook Farm as excess.
And then someone actually got up and spoke prior to the selectmen's meeting and tried to stop this. They want to vote against this because
Vote against what?
about making these buildings surplus
Yeah.
because her thought is she's afraid they don't want to put the money in to rehabilitate these buildings because they're decrepit and they're falling apart.
Right.
So her belief is that they'll just tear them down she believes that they're historic. They have a lot of historical value.
Who was it? Do you remember who it was?
I don't remember the speaker's name.
Was she part of the Historical Society? Or
She
something?
might have been. She
Yeah.
might have been.
So the purpose of declaring them as surplus is one purpose, of course, is to demolish them.
Right.
There's no argument there.
Yeah.
But another purpose is if they are to rehabilitate the buildings and lease them out to private individuals or put them up in a fashion to put them out to bids
Declaring
to
them
lease
surplus,
them.
you have to do that
You
by
have
law.
to do them anyway. You have to do that anyway. So to rehab the buildings and utilize them for their best worth, I think it's proper to declare them as surplus.
What article is that one?
That is, so it's Article 2, and it would be dash
Sub-Article 19.
19 from this past June town meeting.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's interesting.
But the town manager did speak specifically about this, and it was there was some back and forth about it. She said that they kind of did an analysis, and it would cost anywhere from $500,000 to $3 million to rehabilitate these buildings. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're telling me it's going to cost $3 million?
That's a very
I
large
could build
margin.
like 8 houses for $3 million.
So to bring it back, because if you're rehabbing, you need to, for the amount of work that needs to go in there, it needs to be brought up to code. And also now you're dealing with
what
prevailing
buildings are we
wages.
talking about? There's only 3. There's a small barn.
There's some red barns out there that were probably
barns.
seed barns at some point
It's
or
a
something like
very
that.
small barn.
They are fairly small.
So to scare people into thinking that it's going to be $3 million to rehab that,
500,000 to $3 million.
that's just.
So again,
But does it surprise you after we spend $850,000 on a bathroom? Would that
well,
surprise you?
where was that bathroom, Gordy?
Across from the fire station?
At Monahan Field? Is
Yes.
that what it-
Yeah, that's correct.
$800,000 for a bathroom.
yeah, so so the one over at the high school
Was
ba-
500,000.
fields, no, they were both $350,000.
I remember, though, I'm pretty sure we voted on $850,000 out of the CPC for those bathrooms.
No, I know both of them were $350,000, although the site work over at the Monahan Park was
Yeah.
not included in the build-out.
Okay.
The town had to do their own site
Okay.
work, so
it's
that would have
three-
driven up. That would have
So it was
driven up the cost.
$350,000.
And did
Still
you know
for a
the
bathroom.
architectural fees on that were $70,000?
$70,000 for architectural fees.
yeah.
And Phil, tell us, what did it cost DATV to do a brand-new studio, much bigger than what we had in the past?
I believe the architect charged $9,500.
$9,500.
Wow, great
And
guy.
the-
I wonder who
and
that
the
was.
architect did what?
Donated $3,000 of that fee to an interior designer.
So, I hate to divert down to that level of where we're going with this. We're down the rabbit hole, right?
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
rabbit hole is that there's people out there knocking Phil Thibault for donating most of his time to DATV in an extensive way. And the people who are knocking him were on the board at the time of the build-out, were in favor of Phil doing it, and now they're knocking him for voting. They voted to pay Phil a nominal amount of money when it comes to architectural design.
Absolutely.
A nominal amount of money. They voted, they made the motion, and they voted to have Phil do this and pay him. And now they're knocking him, saying that he's a thief. Now, what kind of an individual does this? An individual that's a narcissistic, that didn't get his way over certain things, wants to now go after and destroy DATV and destroy Phil, me, and others.
Honestly, I know of two
Oh,
directors.
that person that no longer lives in Dracut.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to get to that later.
I
We're
know.
going to get to that later.
I know of two directors who said they would not allow me to do the project unless I was paid something.
Now, did you vote on that? Did you vote?
No,
on-
of course I gave a full disclosure, and I accused myself on all voting dealing with the
with
construction.
the contract.
Yeah.
Right. And,
So
and
any construction.
so who was
vote.
on the board at the time? It was John Lyons.
John Lyons was.
He was the president,
Yeah.
and
Mike
did a great
Mac-
job. Mike
yeah, Mike
McNamara was the
McNamara.
treasurer,
You're right.
and Mike McNamara. Look, Mike and I didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things, but we're still friends and still acquaintances. But the bottom line is, there's a guy that wouldn't spend a nickel, not a nickel. I mean, listen. Mike McNamara, God bless you, Mike. I hope you're watching, and I hope somebody lets him watch, or has him watch this. But God bless him. He was so cheap with the Dracut Access television money that giving Phil that kind of money, I think the $8,000 or $9,000 that Phil, did for services, professional services, He wanted to fill the Poland Springs water bottles from his house tap and bring it in instead of buying the Poland Springs. And we had to put a stop to that. We said, Mike, come on, we're going to buy the water. It's ridiculous, you know? But this is a guy who voted in favor of doing it. And the guy who's knocking your block off, and the other idiot that's his useful idiot is trying to be on the board down here. He's trying, you know, they're dragging your name through the mud. Again. But the bottom line is, he did a service for Dracut. And he did a service. We have beautiful studios down here, and it probably would have cost upwards of $70,000 or better, because this was an $800,000 project.
I would say better than that.
See?
Yeah.
So, all right, let's get back to this warrants, because that was enough of them. Enough
So,
spent on those
so
idiots.
Article 2, there's also sub-Article 35, which is from another previous. And what they're looking to do is essentially vote to rescind the remaining portion of an allocation, because I believe it limits what they can actually do for future projects, because this is still lingering around as something that was allocated by town meeting.
Okay, so that's something. That's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Okay. So, moving right along.
So Article number 3, I thought certainly would raise some consternation by some of the selectmen. So Article 3 is to raise and appropriate funds to operate the PEG Access from the PEG Access Enterprise Fund.
Right.
So essentially, all the money is being diverted it goes to the town. I won't say diverted. It goes to the town.
It's a pass-through.
It's put into an enterprise fund, and then Dracut Access Television is the PEG, public access educational and government channel provider. So DATV would then invoice the town of Dracut to get those funds.
Right. Whereas before it came directly from Comcast.
Right.
And this change was initiated by DATV.
That's correct.
Because it's state law.
That's correct.
We weren't following, it wasn't, the town actually wasn't following state law, and we initiated it by going to the town and saying, we need to change this to be in compliance with state law.
That's correct.
So now, we're not the only access, and they'll have you think, certain political forces will have you think that they're taking control of DATV, and that's not true. They can't do that.
That's correct. So this money, by contract with Comcast, can only be spent on the PEG Access channel.
Right.
So
which is what we do
provider.
here.
Right. That's correct.
So
there was a question raised by Selectman Forcier that can we essentially spend this money on DATV if we don't have a contract with them?
Haven't had a contract for 15 years, 16 years.
Better. And Attorney Hall pretty much said, well, you already have precedence that DATV has been receiving the money, and he would suggest continuing to do so.
You think? You think there's a lawsuit
there?
there?
But again, you know, the same questions come from Selectman Forcier, Selectman Dracut, that have a vendetta against DATV.
They have a vendetta against DATV.
It probably just deepened because I mentioned their names again.
Right, and the vendetta is against Phil Thibault, John Zimini, Tammy Dristolaris, and of course the Teflon Don over there doesn't get anything on him.
Not yet.
Not yet. So what's Article 4?
Article 4 was to spend some free cash, which unencumbered monies in town, on a number of different things within the schools to repair water heaters, and there's a handicap lift at the Brookside that isn't really operational, so to repair that and repair a number of items around the schools. Certainly well worth it. I mean, you need to maintain the upkeep of these
Was there any
buildings.
comment on that, Gordy?
No, not really. It just got approved unanimously. I think it was over $1 million, though, they're spending.
By the way, what did they do with Article 3?
$1.033 million, I think it was.
What did they do with Article 3? Did they move to?
They approved it.
They approved it?
Yeah, they recommend approval.
Was it unanimous?
Yes, it was.
Oh,
Yes, it
amazing.
was.
Because they had no choice. They had
Well,
no choice,
with-
really.
with-
It'll be
Attorney
interesting
Hall.
at the town meeting, though, to see if any...
What they do, yeah. Okay, so this stuff will be passed, obviously, Article 4. How about Article 5?
Article 5 deals with, I'm trying to remember it,
Special revenues and
for a
funds?
special, did you
So that's a
remember?
housekeeping
I believe so.
from the stabilization fund.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was money to get transferred from this was the new financial person.
Oh, that's correct. Kind of bookkeeping.
Because yeah, it's a book. They're moving money around a little bit it's actually a good thing. So it's
Yeah.
like I can't remember the amount of money. It was like $175,000 or something.
That's correct.
Net. For
That
the
happens
town.
every year. There's
Yeah. He
Is
kind
there
of.
anything else controversial on here? I see
To
that
be honest, not really.
the
I mean,
DPW offices. How much money is being spent on that? Do we know?
the total so the bids are out. I believe we're looking to receive the bids within the next week or two.
So we're not in that building because
So there was a vehicle accident. It hit the corner of the building
maybe
2 or 3 years ago, and so
There
they
was
were
several years. I think
They
it
were
was
they
more
were
than that.
negotiating with the insurance company on what the final costs were, and then there was some investigation of, okay, if we're going to do repairs, why don't we also think about a renovation so the DPW offices are more efficient? And so there were a couple of looks at it, if you want.
Didn't the former manager have something in mind there too to build?
Yes, as a
on
matter of
top
fact, I
it?
think there was an allocation of some $250,000, and for some reason he thought it may be enough to do the renovation. And
What
it's
is that
like,
gonna
well,
end up costing?
Didn't you ask the building committee first? Because we could have told you no.
No. What are they looking at to spend down there?
I believe the estimate is 1.3 million.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And how much will the architectural cost be for that? Somewhere in the vicinity.
To be honest,
I'm going to 100,000. I'll bet. Well, you'll have to bring that figure.
I'll have to find it.
You'll have to bring that figure. How about Article 7? We're buying a dump truck.
Article 7 was to buy, to
The lease. They're
To lease-
leasing.
lease.
They're not buying. They're leasing them.
so they can get a consistent vehicle, similar make, so
Right,
they
so if
can
one breaks down,
they can interchange parts.
if
and
one
stuff.
breaks apart, they can take the carburetor out of one and use it as a spare part. It's not a bad
Yeah.
idea.
Okay, so what about Article 8?
Article 8 has to deal with adopting a section of Massachusetts law that if the town writes a check for $100 or less and it doesn't get cashed, well, it just kind of sits there.
Yeah.
And then if it sits there for too long, well, we have to send it to the state as unclaimed funds.
And it becomes, yeah.
So if we
So-
pass this, we can
Take
take the money and put
we
it
can
into free
recoup
cash.
the money right away, and then it still sets up notification. on-
Whatever within 90 days or whatever
Yeah.
whatever.
And Article
So
9?
Article 9 is a simple, well, I say simple, zoning change.
Okay.
So this is a property at Hawkins Street and Lakeview Ave. So if you know where the Dracut Water Supply District office is, it's that little side street to get down to it. There's a red building there. And somehow that seemed to have been converted from a B3 zone originally to an R3 zone.
Right. And the guy's he's retiring, he wants to sell the building, but he can't because it's not residential. So it's
So, yeah, right, because it's zoned R3 at the moment, and I want to do some research on that because I find that hard to believe that little portion is zoned R3 where most of the
Used
other
to be a
areas
candy
are
store
already
or
B3.
something.
Yeah.
used to be a candy store or something, they said. And
So Gordy, when is the town meeting?
November 1st.
And what time? Do we know?
I think
7
it's
o'clock?
7
7
o'clock.
o'clock.
7 o'clock. So it seems like it's going to be a short meeting, but there is a meeting within the meeting, right? And what's
That's
that
what
all about?
that's what I heard. So there was a request by Kathy Graham, our town clerk, to have a special town meeting to set a date for municipal elections to the first Saturday of May rather than the first Monday in May.
Now, why isn't that a charter change instead of just a vote of the town meeting? That doesn't make sense to me.
The charter refers it back to the bylaws of the town. So
Okay.
it doesn't establish it within the charter itself. It establishes that the date will be set by the bylaw.
Okay, so they're changing the bylaw.
Bylaw gets
Temporarily.
changed at town meeting. No, I think they're looking to
This
do
is
this.
gonna be forever?
A permanent
Forever.
change.
Yeah. Now, the
And they
last
said
election
they
was on a
asked why
Saturday.
we couldn't do it on the first Monday, and they said there's something with the school couldn't do it. It's something with the Department of DESI.
Yeah, not allowing to use professional days and closing schools down for a municipal election. If it was a state election or a federal election.
Oh, that's okay.
Then they would be mandated that the schools be
By
closed.
the state, but since it's a public.
But I think Lowell is shut down on the election day.
So their school department apparently allows that.
They can do it, though, if they want.
They could. The superintendent of schools could certainly say we're closing schools that day.
So there's probably a little internal struggle in between the two bodies.
Something with
again.
the teachers union was brought up.
So folks, they want to change the election to make it permanently on a Saturday, which I don't think is a bad idea.
I think it was that way at some point originally. 'Cause
Years ago.
Kathy had mentioned that they used to have town meeting and voting on the same day.
Yeah, I'm not so sure we should have town meeting. on
But
the same
some
day.
people
There's too much to go on there.
People go away for the weekends and.
Yeah, but you can always vote prior
Early.
to that. But
Right.
there's always going to be an excuse to miss town meeting,
Right.
a vote.
Absolutely.
Right.
At that level. But I do believe that it's not a bad idea, although it didn't prove.
It didn't
the
work out too
reasoning
well
didn't
last year,
prove
did it?
well. Well, the reasoning didn't prove well because it's supposed to expand the amount of vote. It didn't do that.
It
because
actually
people-
decreased last year.
Decreased. And COVID had something to do with that too. And of course, that was a great day for incumbents.
Yes.
Because 9% comes out, who's coming out?
Right.
You know, I'm sure that the incumbents are going to look at their list and they're going to say, oh, he works for DPW. Oh, he didn't come out to vote? Oh, well, you know, and there's nobody in town that's vicious enough and vindictive enough to do that. Is there, Phil? Is there anybody on that board of selectmen?
One name probably comes to mind.
it comes to-
but,
comes to mind all the time.
Escapes me at the moment.
Yeah, we try not to give too much ink to the, to certain pieces of swill. But the bottom line is that's where that goes on the warrant articles. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about, I have some pictures to show of Jesse Forcier's construction on his new home in Methuen, Massachusetts. And I'm just keep wondering why Mr. Forcier, whose heart is not in the town anymore, it just isn't, he's looking to move out of town. Why is he still on the Board of Selectmen? He should just resign and go away because a lot of people are talking about how he's so vindictive towards DATV. Show us those pictures now, Nate, that we have of the construction that's ongoing. It's a hole in the ground, but it's starting to be foundationary for his new home. So this is it right here. There's some pictures. They're not the best pictures because my photographer is not that good of a photographer, but at least he's got the gist of it and shows you that there's some crushed rock down there and there's some digging going on, and the foundation will be put in next, I'm sure. And he's got great weather to do that. So I just wish there was a way we could just get him out a little bit faster, But so be it. So,
Although I'll say it's interesting that there's crushed stone because that lends me to believe that the soils there aren't all that great.
yeah, it's probably mostly
Might be very damp.
very damp and clay-like. It could be. So, Gordy, you have a report for us.
Yes, I do.
Take it away, Gordy. This is an
Right.
interesting report on the census and the voting list and residents. People who are residents or not residents, right?
Yes.
Okay,
So
that's
I took it upon myself to go out because I wanted to see, as we know in the national media, there's a lot of talk about a stolen election, and everyone said that's false, right? So what I did is I did a FOIA request from the town to get the latest copy of the census data. For those people that know, you get those usually in December, and it says fill this out and send it back in by January. So all that data goes back to the town, shows how many people we have, and that gives us funding for schools and everything else by your population. So I got that data, and then just so happens I did a voter list request back in July of 2020. So I have a copy of that data. And then just yesterday, I got the latest list of the current voter list from Dracut, right? So I have a chart here. A couple charts I'd like to share with you guys. So this one here on the top left of your screen shows that's the data from the census. And what this data shows us is the number of adult residents that live in Dracut. This isn't the total population. This is only people that are 18 plus. So as of the census, which was January 2020, there was 23,813 adults that live in Dracut. Out of those, 13,626 were registered voters, and the other amount was 10,187 are not registered voters. So the list I had from July, the voter list I requested from the town, showed a little bit different story. So the
So
resident.
you right away, red flags went up.
Right, so this doesn't, if you look at the pie, right, the left and the right pies don't look the same, and they should.
Yeah.
So the right pie shows July 20, the voter list, and it showed the population to be 23,116. So it's not off by a lot, 700
Right.
people. But out of that 23,000, it showed almost 17,800 people were registered to vote. And there were,
Compared to your analysis in,
which is, there's only 13,000.
Right.
So there's over 4,000 more people that were on the voter list that were able to vote in July that shouldn't have been on the list.
should not have been on the list.
Right, so that shows
Wow.
us that the voter list was not cleaned up. So when I requested, so I said, that's a little strange, isn't it? So I requested the new list as of yesterday. And you can see that's the one that's in the middle. The one in the middle emulates what's on the left, which is, and when I did the FOIA request, I was told that these were coming directly from the state. When I did the one in July, it was coming from their local database.
Right.
So I think Dracut has done the right thing, and that they've centralized everything with the state. So now it takes them a couple days because when I asked for the voter data, they get it back to me within an hour or two.
So let me just throw this out to you and keep those things up there. So what your FOIA request caused the town to say, hey, we got to clean up this list. Look, to me, that's what it sounds like, because we see the huge discrepancy of some 4,000 people still on that list that shouldn't have been on the list, and many of them could have voted.
When I looked at the data, there was some people that were over 100 years old that were on the voter
And then you
list.
went back and looked to see if those people were on this new list that you got.
And they are not, so they've
And they're
been cleaned
not,
up.
so they got cleaned up. So the red flag went up when Gordy and What's Happening Dracut went out to go look at this, and then they cleaned it up. So we caused another action a reaction to us. Otherwise, would this have been cleaned up?
I'm not sure.
We don't know. We don't know. We can assume that it might have been.
So the next slide I want to show you is this slide. So this is out of those the number of registered voters that were from both lists. How many people? Just to give people an idea, how many people are Republican, how many people are Democrat. So the blue number is Democratic voters, registered Democrats. The orange color is Republicans, and the gray color is Independents. And there's a little sliver of yellow, which is other, so that could be Tea Party, Green Party, whatever. Libertarian.
I know there is a pizza party in Massachusetts. Too. That's a legitimate political party. The
So
pizza
that's
party.
what the P stood for. Okay.
Might be.
Yeah.
So you can see it's pretty equal on all three charts, are almost identical.
Yeah.
But you can, from the top left, that's the 13,600. The July voter list had 17,858,
There's the disparity.
which was wrong.
Right.
And now the latest one from yesterday is 13,779. So
Closer to the other number.
closer to the other number. So the difference between the beginning of 2020 and today is about 150 people, 153 people. So that makes sense.
Makes sense.
153 people.
Makes sense.
And then the last slide I want to show you, I thought you guys would be interested. This is the number of voters that were either added or removed from the voter list.
Okay.
And this, I used the correct numbers from the state.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so the latest data I just got, and then it tells when the person was either removed from the list or added to the list.
Okay.
So you can see on the far right, or far left, sorry, that's 2012. So you can see from 2012 to 2021 so far, 10 months. And you can see in 2016 there's a huge spike of both. So it looks like a lot of people started moving in and out of Dracut starting in 2016 for some reason. Not sure what that reason is. But the blue bar is voters that were added to the voter list, and orange bar is voters that were removed. So you can see in 2020 there's that big chunk of people that got removed from the list.
Right.
And in 2021 you can see a lot of people been added, but the orange line is very small, so there hasn't been many people removed. But, John, I thought you would like to know,
Yes.
of that orange chunk
Yes.
in 2021,
Yes.
there's one certain person that used to live in Dracut that no longer lives in Dracut, which has been verified by the state of Massachusetts,
Really?
is Mr. Bond is no longer.
He no longer lives in Dracut.
He no longer
So
lives.
if he gives an address in Dracut,
It would be false because I have the latest.
He'd be
data.
lying, right?
He would be lying.
right? Yeah. Wow. We know that he's got a vehicle that's not registered in Massachusetts.
Well, I don't know about that, but I can tell you from the state of according to the state of Massachusetts, he no longer lives here.
So he's the big mouth of the town. He's one of the
And I did see on his show, he was talking to George. He said he's got a lot of votes at the Dracut Access Television.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the bylaws say.
Yeah.
As far as Dracut Access TV,
You have to be you have to be a
so you have to be a resident
A
of
resident
the
of
town, or your
Dracut.
business has to be a resident.
To
You have
be a member of
to be a
Dracut
member.
Access
So
Television,
if he's
right.
not a member, if he's not a resident of Dracut, does that mean he can vote in the election coming
No,
up?
he can't. He can't.
So-
But what will stop him from doing that? You know?
He got a mail-in ballot, so
Well, we'll challenge it and we'll see what happens. We'll have to challenge it. He'll have to produce some document that tells us he lives here, and not a note from his mommy. And I don't mean to disparage his mother at all. His mother's a wonderful person, but that's who he runs to sometimes. And he'll come after me this week, so because I.
Well, he did.
because
I
I've known-
noticed he.
Oh, he's
did
going
post
after
something.
Phil.
Phil,
He's-
yeah.
Phil, if you don't sue for slander and that has nothing to do with
It's-
that letter that he sent out, that vicious, vile
Sir-
letter that him and that other idiot, O'Brien, sent out, is just beyond the pale, and it's lies. If you don't sue them,
It
because it's nothing to do with your
certainly
politics.
attacks me from my professional business.
Yeah.
And so that is being looked into.
Don't you have ethics? You have an ethical
Oh, absolutely.
standard that you have to go by, right?
Yes, and it's codified by law. I mean, there's a standard because of my license by
Right.
the state. There's an ethics that's involved. Yeah.
So you have the documentation from the state that says he doesn't live here,
Yes.
but we really don't know where he lives because he's like a
Well, he's not in the state of well, at least he doesn't live in Dracut. He could live somewhere else in Massachusetts
But he
because I
doesn't.
didn't request.
So why don't you go a little bit further and dig to see if he lives anywhere else in Massachusetts?
I could do that.
And maybe we could find out where he really is trying to.
But I can tell you with
skirt
100%
paying taxes.
because I just got the file. It's just hot off the press from yesterday.
I'm just wondering if by registering his beautiful camper that he bought, right, in another state
And maybe
to save tax
Montana,
money.
maybe Montana, that there's no taxes on vehicles in Montana?
Well,
or Oregon, or
Yeah, might be one of those. But anyways, enough with that idiot and those idiots because, we'll see what happens with that. I don't watch a show. I don't care to watch a show, and I'm not even going to talk about who the show is. But let's get into cancel culture for a minute, right? And we have our friend here, the ace.
The expert of cancel culture right here.
Tell us about our cancel culture.
So tonight we're going to be talking about Christopher Columbus, the next victim of cancel culture.
Right.
Was he a murderous, genocidal lunatic? Was he the hero of the Atlantic? Let's find out. That's the cue to roll the video. Christopher Columbus crossed the ocean blue in 1492. This expression has sailed through the lips of elementary students across the nation for as long as we can remember. Columbus Day, while not the most celebrated or patriotic holiday on the calendar, has served as a fond memory of a time of exploration and enlightenment to the likes of which the world has yet to see. This image, however, has long faded from the minds of today's generation. Columbus is now, according to this generation, a murderous, genocidal lunatic who pillaged and raped his way across the Atlantic. Was Columbus the monster which the public perceives him to be, or did he sail with a nobler cause in mind? Spain, a land of culture, power, and prominence, had been diverting its resources to a conflict with the Muslim Moors, whose attack on the Spanish nation lasted over 8 years. It was during that 8th year, however, that Spanish royalty, whose nation's expeditions dwarfed those of superpowers around them, decided to play catch-up. And so, after almost a decade of planning and persuading, Queen Isabella granted Columbus the use of 3 ships, the Nina, Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Armed with a crew, supplies, and high hopes, the band of men set sail in 1492. They were to embark across a vast and dangerous sea, rumored to be infested by krakens and serpents, and which God himself couldn't defeat. Columbus had a plan, however. A man by the name of Tuscanelli, who was revered as the finest cartographer and mathematician of his time, had provided the explorer with a map. This map, displayed on your screen now, represents the most widely accepted vision of the West by 15th century standards. The orange indicates what the majority, Columbus included, speculated to exist, while the white land masses represent what we know today as the Western world. Columbus believed that, opposed to sailing around the coast of Africa to reach Asia, one could simply cut across the opposite side of the globe. A bold assumption for his time. After what was more than 10 weeks on the open ocean, Columbus and his crew stumbled upon what we know today as the Bahamas. Going by a scientific map, however, Columbus assumed that he had discovered not the vacation capital of the world, but an island off the coast of Japan. His incredibly lucky discovery was inhabited by the native peoples of the region, including the Carbis, a population of cannibals to whom a newborn baby was considered a delicacy. There were then, of course, the friendly native tribes who greatly assisted our explorer, and to whom Columbus formed favorable relations with. The people of this newly discovered continent, however, suffered from an unfavorable immune system. The lack of any real domestic farm animal carved the natives into a perfect victim for swine and fowl-borne illnesses, such as chickenpox. In fact, it was that very disease that wiped out more than 90% of the South American native population. This tragedy, albeit a pure accident, was bound to occur, with or without the assistance of Christopher Columbus. Such a tragedy would have taken place among contact with any foreigner. It just so happened Christopher Columbus discovered them first. Columbus spoke very highly of the native peoples, writing in his journal, quote, "It appears to me the people are ingenious and would be good servants, and I am of the opinion that they would very readily become Christians, as they appear to have no religion." End quote. The word servant in this instance leaves great room for interpretation. Translations of Columbus's 15th century Italian have been poor at best. The use of servant is believed to have referred to that of God, and roughly translate to the word Christian, opposed to slave. To conclude his first voyage, Columbus returned to Spain with 6 natives to present to Spanish royalty. Pleased with his discovery, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella sent Columbus back to the New World not once, not twice, but thrice. Under orders from the Crown, Columbus established bases throughout the tropical islands. His work led to his appointment of governor of Hispaniola, or modern-day Haiti. While Christopher Columbus introduced the New World to the Old, it is worth mentioning his brief imprisonment. It was after his 3rd voyage that Columbus saw his governorship revoked. The King and Queen of Spain had set astronomically high quotas for the mining of gold in the Hispaniola region, with strict orders to sever the hands and noses of those whose work stalled behind. It was for this reason that Columbus was thrown in the dungeon, a stay which only lasted 3 weeks, following the reappointment to his governorship and orders to sail a 4th voyage. It was while in prison, however, that Columbus penned a letter to an acquaintance, detailing the gruesome and appalling sex slavery which was then occurring throughout the region. He writes of girls as young as 9 years old being sold in the market. While it is true that Columbus's discovery inevitably led to the development of the transatlantic slave trade, it cannot be denied that he changed the world forever, leading humanity into a new age of discovery and mystery, an age which shaped the world we see today more than 500 years later.
So, Richard, that was a great little piece, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Wasn't
very
it a great
good.
little piece. That's awesome.
Well, I like history, so
So
you know.
tell us,
The
do the myth, the part about the mystery.
So there's some misinterpretations with Columbus. They say that he took a bunch of these slaves, right? And they say that because of that quote that I showed up on the screen where he called the native people ingenious people who would serve as good servants, right? Well, it just so happens that we don't have any original copies of Columbus's diaries. They're all translations, much like the Bible.
Right.
So translating 15th century Italian isn't a very easy thing to do,
Right.
and there are many different interpretations on what he meant by good servants.
Right.
But if you translate it to Italian, the word servant doesn't even come up.
Right.
The word servant is translated to Christian or a follower of the Christian faith.
Servant of God, servant of
exactly.
God.
So what they think it means is that he didn't refer to servant as you're going to be a slave, you are going to be a Christian.
Yeah. So, but we know that guys like John Curtis,
Oh, yeah.
right, would twist that to mean
Absolutely.
what
The
they
same
want
people
it
who
to
twist
mean.
our words nowadays are going to twist the words
Right.
of people from years ago.
But so the reason I throw John Curtis's name out there
Oh, yeah,
is
exactly.
because he made a comment on Facebook about us, conservatives eating our own. First of all, the gentleman we talked about earlier in the evening is not one of our own. He was one of our mistakes of our lives that we will pay for the rest of our lives. And I do penance every night, thanking God that he is finally out of my life forever. So, John, if you keep throwing out little stuff like that, you could become a victim of that same out of our lives forever. And John, I like you pushing back, but make sure you know what you're talking about, okay? So, let's go on to the next thing, Richard. You have something else to put us in.
Oh boy, which one do we want first?
Today, we are going to talk a little bit about Lowell news and Lowell politics, and we wanted to do a little something. Richard has a little something to report on former Representative Dave Nangle. So if you could put that picture up and we can have Richard report on the latest news on Dave Nangle, and then I have a little tidbit.
Hot off the press from the District Attorney's Office of Massachusetts from Boston.
You can put that picture up of Mr. Nangle.
Former Massachusetts State Representative David M. Nangle was sentenced today for illegally using campaign funds to pay for his personal expenses, defrauding a bank to obtain loans to purchase his home and repay his personal debts, and collecting income that he failed to report to the Internal Revenue Service. Nangle, age 60, of Lowell, was sentenced by U.S. Senior District Court Judge Raya W. Zobel to 15 months in prison and 2 years of supervised release. Nangle was also ordered to pay restitution of $33,347 to the IRS and forfeiture of $15,650. On February 24, 2021, Nangle pleaded guilty to 10 counts of wire fraud, 4 counts of bank fraud, 4 counts of making false statements to a bank, and 5 counts of filing false tax returns. Former Representative Nangle was a 22-year veteran of the Massachusetts State House and former chairman of the Ethics Committee when he illegally used campaign funds for private golf club dues, trips to casinos, and expensive dinners, said acting United States Attorney Nathaniel R. Mendel. He broke the law and violated his duty to the voters, as chairman of the Ethics Committee, no less. This case is the latest proof that this office is intent on holding corrupt public officials accountable. Quote, state lawmakers are elected by the people to serve the people, not to serve their own financial interests like David Nangle did. Mr. Nangle betrayed his constituents' trust and broke the law, knowing full well what he did was wrong. Today's sentence shows that there are serious consequences for corrupt public officials who try to undermine the integrity of our government, end quote, said Joseph R. Bonavolenta, special agent in charge of the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Boston Division. Quote, citizens expect and deserve their elected officials to serve them honestly, and the FBI will not hesitate to go after others like him who willfully and maliciously abuse their office, end quote.
So what do you think of that, guys?
Wow. That's great.
You know, that's a case that's been going on and hanging over the heads of many in what do you call it, in Lowell for a number of years now. And listen, I know Dave Nangle, and he was a good guy. And I mean, you enjoy being around him. He's a fun guy to be with. I think his intent of serving the House of Representatives was always good. But you get drunk with the trappings of what's going on down there, and
Money and
sometimes
power.
you get off. Sometimes you get off on a tangent and do some things, and I think that some gambling attributed to him having to go out and try to find other resources to make money. But there's an interesting backstory that's emerging in the underworld of the rumor mill in Lowell. And that underworld is saying today that one of his friends may have been wearing a wire when he was talking, and that might have been a demise to, and it hasn't been confirmed, but the rumor is pretty strong in Lowell that one of his friends was wearing a wire. We had so much more to talk about tonight. And we're down to the last 3 minutes. So I wanted to get into some. There's not much school news going on, Richard's working on a story on one-on-one with the computers. The fighting stuff at the high school has died
seems to
down.
have ceased, yes.
We should look into the middle school because I'm getting some pushback on the middle school a little bit. And we talked about COVID funding and things of that nature
Some
for
funding
a while.
things too with the middle school. It
Yeah.
would be interesting to look into.
Yeah, look into the middle school. So we wanted to talk a little bit about tonight, about what's going on with the ships off the coast of California, Gordy. What's going on out there?
The latest I heard was we had over 1,000 ships. There, if you haven't been following the news, there was an oil spill outside of California. They just cleaned that up. But the last I saw, and I'm not sure how those containers got removed, but I've heard it's down to like 65 ships now from 1,000.
Wow.
That's the latest number I got yesterday.
Well, it was all over the news today. I don't know
I
if
heard
that's
they're
true.
going 24/7 now,
Yes.
trying to unload them. Where
Yeah.
I guess I don't know. They were unloading them for 8 hours a day. I don't. It seems weird.
Well, usually because they had the truck drivers pull up and take them out, and then.
So
they would just-
I was asked in a discussion about why is this happening. I said, so I tried to make it relatable. I said, Shaw Dairy uses glass bottles. Well,
Right.
if people don't return the glass bottles, he can't fill up any more bottles.
Right.
And that's what's happening a lot with these containers, is that they're just sitting there full of stuff because they're not unloaded or transported elsewhere,
Yep.
because you have to empty them before you can fill them.
Yeah. So the supply chain is creating some shortages. And I don't know if you've noticed, if you go into your local markets, a lot of the product now is being put to the front of the shelves, and they're not stacked all the way back.
Facing the shelves. I used
Yeah.
to work at
Yeah.
a store.
Yeah.
That was one of the jobs at the end of the night. Make sure you face all the shelves.
And that leads to the rumor mill, which leads to people hoarding, which just exacerbates the issue.
So there's a lot of stuff going on at different supermarkets and what have you. Any comments?
Yeah, we have John Curtis, a little pushback from him. He actually asked to come on the show.
John, we'll talk about that at another time. The bottom line is, get your facts straight first, and then maybe we'll talk about that. This is a special show, and we only have special people on the show. So, okay.
Special in what way, John?
Special
in what way?
Special, What about General Milley? We had leaking information to the press. Did you hear that? That came out when he was testifying before the House and Senate on the Afghanistan debacle. And he also had other comments about that, how General McKenzie, who admitted that he told the president that he should keep more troops in Afghanistan, but Biden didn't listen. That's still not a word out of the White House about Afghanistan since that day. Did those people make it out of Afghanistan yet, or are we just writing them off? We're just writing them off, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just writing them off.
Well, they're still there. They've come up to the report. I was actually watching CNN, John. I think that would surprise you, but
Yeah.
one of the reporters actually was on and said, I've had about 15 people come to me. They now have their cards to get to the U.S., and they're trying to come to me and have me try to get them out with CNN to see if they could travel with the news team, but and nothing's happening. So
Sure. So what about Governor Baker's vaccination? We're at the end already?
at the end.
Oh, my
Cliffhanger
God.
for next episode.
Oh, my God. So, all right. Well, folks, we want to thank you for coming and watching us this evening and spending some time in our little neighborhood here. And, Gordy, you're going to close it out.
as John said, we thank you guys for watching. We always have interesting stories. We're always looking out for the taxpayer of Dracut. And when it's Wednesday night and it's 6:30, it's What's Happening Dracut. Good night, Dracut.